Welcome, dear viewers, to our format Natural Medicine. Today I have Professor Dr. Thomas Rao with me and we are talking about poisonous liver. Or should we say poisoned liver? Because today's external factors are of course in a magnitude that we can no longer grasp. And how we can support the liver to really get back into its active force, you will find out today. Stay tuned. Hello, dear Thomas. Nice to have you back. It's always a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to talk to you. But you're always so modest. And the topic of liver. Well, I really have to say, when I ask around, there's always a seminar. Who wakes up at 3 a.m.? Then some hands go up. That's always the topic for me. And what actually burdens our liver? Everything.
So the liver is the organ, the largest solid organ of humans. Larger than the brain, heavier than the brain, more cells than the brain. And it is the organ that flushes out toxins. And in this flushing and filtering, it's a whole capillary network that the liver has. Detoxification is done. The liver cell has a separating property. That means the liver cells can filter toxins out of the blood. That's why it was also constructed in the creation that all the blood from the intestine through the enterointestine hepatic liver circuit, so the intestinal liver circuit, everything we absorb, goes straight from the intestine into the liver. It is then transformed. On the one hand, the enzymes, the amino acids, are rebuilt into body-like structures. On the other hand, the role structures are eliminated. An incredibly sophisticated process that has not been recognized to this day. How does the liver cell know what is good and what is bad? So science has reached a limit so far. We see that in today's time not only the intestine is damaged by many people, by wrong things that we have absorbed in the food, mostly in the food, but they go straight into the liver. And the liver cell loses or is overloaded. This filter is simply, figuratively speaking, clogged. And the toxic stress, the toxic substances, can be metals, heavy metals, but they can also be new-fashioned substances that have a highly toxic effect, such as pyrethroids, the DDT which you inject, agricultural toxins, insecticides, which in a small amount, but still, in the end there is still a lot that gets into the body. They all go into the liver. And at some point this detoxification function is overloaded. Then it flows through and these substances, which can be neurotoxic, but which can also have a toxic effect on many other organs, for example, can cause diabetes. They are then simply passed through and enter the organs. Secondary into the pancreas, then there may be diabetes. Secondary into the thyroid. The thyroid has an insane blood flow that the tissue, except the retina, which has the strongest blood flow per cell, the thyroid, a small organ, does so much and is then also more toxic. That is why there are these rapid increases in autoimmune processes. Before COVID, Hashimoto's thyroiditis was the fastest growing diagnosis in America because people are simply poisoned by the nutrition. And the patient must, this is my experience, if he has chronic suffering, especially neurological suffering, or fatigue, or insomnia, or even psychological suffering, then he must be detoxified first. In Chinese medicine, I know my way around this. In traditional Chinese medicine, endogenous depression was a liver activity reduction. That was a liver suffering. Because the liver is the organ of vitality. Liver? Life. The liver is the organ of vitality, of joy too. And if we get so grey and tired and still can't sleep properly, then it is often a liver burden. And so I, together with my team at the time, that's really about 30 years ago, I described this as one of the first in 2007, the liver detoxification cure, which was then taken over by Alexander, Moritz, and so on. Many took over. Hulda Clark described this in America before me. And that's a treatment that works fantastically. 1 week, then with 2 or 3 weeks of treatment, you can relieve the liver. I'm not saying completely detoxify it, but relieve the burden in such a way that the person is energetically a different person. It's incredible.
And how does it work? Or is it a secret?
No, it's not a secret. You can buy my book, Chronically Sick, Heal Yourself. Chronically Sick, Heal Yourself, by Dr. Rao. It says everything in the last detail. It's not a secret. Thank God, it was copied often, also from people who said they had developed it. That's not true, of course. But if it's just made to protect people. How does it work? We do this for a week. We prepare people with things like vermouth drops, enzian drops, so things that activate the liver. The patient should not take any animal products a week before the treatment. They burden the liver and are very much impregnated with toxins. The animal protein. So no animal products, especially no dairy products. Then the treatment begins. The treatment is described in detail. A very detailed plant, mainly green plants, which we give to the patient in a cooked form. There is only a little raw food. A very light, liver-activating, carbohydrate-activating diet. Beans, peas, salad, tea, green stuff, etc. And at the same time the patient gets olive oil, apple cider vinegar. The opinions differ again, whether vinegar is good or not. I am a supporter of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar and olive oil and a detergent bitter salt. We give the patient in small quantities. When the patient comes to us, we also do colon hydrotherapy. I give liver wraps. We also do neural therapy. Again with liver-activating, gall-activating substances. And the gallbladder transports all the lipophilic, fat-soluble toxins from the liver. The patient is massively stimulated.
Would it be interesting for people who are now diagnosed with gallstones or bladder stones that they do such a treatment? Or do you have to differentiate?
Bladder stones are different. Gallstones, I am always asked that. We have treated well over 1,000 patients. And no one has ever had a gallbladder stone. No one. And practically everyone has a massive flood of gallbladder and liver toxins. We do ultrasound before and after. We can assess this in high quality. The gallbladder walls become much finer. That means that all the slags that are glued to the gallbladder walls and act as a backlog are excreted. They are not stones that are excreted. They are conglomerates of quite hard gall slag, like rubber.
What I found very exciting, I have the gift of being allowed to work here and to get to know people like you. And then I always come to my own experiences. I have also had my urine analyzed for heavy metals and toxins. And the interesting thing was that lead was not much, aluminum was not much, only arsenic was high. And then a colleague of yours said, well, there has not been a provocation yet. That means your body probably does not excrete lead and aluminum well. And then I also had a chelat provocation. You are an expert in this. And then I saw these urine values and it was disgusting. Because everything is exploding up there. Aluminum, lead, mercury, although I do not have amalgam. So it's already frightening what is stored in the body. Maybe you can also say something about the different types of people. Apparently I am a bad lead and aluminum exporter because I keep it in. What happens then? That the viewer also gets a tool. I can imagine when I go to the doctor, he only does a urine test and says, there is no poison in it. You can't see anything. That's a bit of arsenic.
Yes, exactly. That's a joke, of course. The urine tests that are normally done are for nothing. You can't see anything on heavy metals. Even if you were looking for heavy metals, you wouldn't find them. The excretion, the detoxification must be stimulated. There is a very special test called DMPS test. This is the chelate excretion test. But actually, chemically, it's not chelate. It's a salivary exchange extraction. So for the experts, this is DMPS, this molecule is called what you need. And that binds these metal ions during the passage through the body. The double positively charged metal ions, so cadmium, mercury, lead, not arsenic, but aluminum. So it binds certain ions and then comes out of the urine in an hour. That's the DMPS test. And then you see the blatant values. I work with the Tox Center in Basel, together with Professor Kruslin. The Toxible Laboratory, so he's really the Pope of toxicology. And then he calls me sometimes. Fortunately, I know him very well, friendly. Yes, Thomas, what kind of case do you have again? Because he himself, and that's really the toxicologist himself, is shocked at what kind of cases we have. Yes, the other doctors don't test it, that's why you don't find it. And that's the problem. And these people, they really have, depending on how the liver is, at some point it just overflows, this toxic load that is first stored in the liver. At some point it overflows, goes into the body and then causes the neurological problems. Or the autoimmune problems.
Yes, and I as a woman can now say not only that, but my whole metabolism has been disturbed. So really the hormones, I don't know if that's the cause, but since I've been detoxifying, I have the feeling that everything is regulating again, the water balance and the whole thing, as if a load factor just goes out. And this, or what do you say about it? Is it just my perception or?
What we do is a cause medicine. And the cause of many diseases today is toxic load. If I look now, I just measure all my chronic patients. I said before, who comes to me, these are just the complicated cases. And with them I just measure the toxic load. It's unbelievable how high the toxic load is. And if I only extract these cell-blocking toxins, then people are better off. Just last week we had a liver treatment again. We do it in groups, weekly. And people told me, I'm a new person, I sleep better, I can think much clearer. And my pain or whatever they have, has gotten better. What did we do? We actually just detoxified the body thoroughly once and did a nutritional change. That regulates the intestine and regulates the liver, and then people are already much better.
I have cases again and again where the liver values are a bit. Then the gamma GT value is okay, then the HbA1c value is exorbitant at 10. Then there is suddenly a triglyceride value that is at 1080. Can you say something about it? What does the gamma GT indicate when it is okay or when it is increased? Or just how high the triglycerides are?
These are all metabolic problems that are behind it. Gamma GT is a liver and gall value. If the gallbladder doesn't drain off properly, for whatever reason, the gamma GT is increased. Then there are other liver values that have an even stronger toxic background. GOT and GPT, for example. But that goes a bit too far now. Of course, we do a blood test for people, or you can have the doctor do it according to my instructions. And then it goes over to the health insurance. And then we see where the patient's problem is. Is it in the gall excretion? If so, the gastrointestinal tract is compromised by this excess toxicity. Then the HbA1c value increases. That's the average of long-term sugars increases. This is a sign that the gastrointestinal tract is no longer producing insulin properly. But that is also related to the toxic background. And we can practically improve or normalize diabetes too.
What I also found out is that, for example, due to a high heavy metal load, it can also lead to an increased intestinal fungus. Interrupt me when I say something wrong. The fungi try to encapsulate these toxins. And because of these toxins, it leads to fermentation processes or due to too much meat consumption, with bacterial strains, to decay bacteria. And then you really have a bowl of fungal bacteria and old, rotten alcohols, where the liver is completely at risk. And then these values are reduced with medication, even though
You say it. We have to always treat the intestinal tract also. What I'm saying now is based on my 30-year experience. I used to say, we'll do the liver test and everything will be fine. Today I have a little deeper knowledge. We do an intestinal cure. If we pull the liver into this cure, it will be fine. Without the gut, nothing happens anymore. Because today people are poisoning themselves via the gut. And this poisoning then leads to wrong bacteria. Candida, your friend and helper, I always say, binds a lot of toxins. But it only feels good in this toxic environment. Otherwise it can't live at all. If you detox, it can go away anyway. Because then it isn't needed it anymore. The gut is actually the primary cause.
But it's also nice, as you said, the candida needs the toxic environment. If I shoot against the candida by doing an antifungal treatment, all the toxins will be released and will poison me again. I think that's what many people. I didn't know that back then either. I always said, take a little coconut oil. It helps against this fungus attack. But many years ago I hadn't checked that the fungi were actually there to bind the toxins.
Unfortunately, there is still a misconception in the bioscene that candida should be treated with antifungal agents. That's completely wrong. And it only increases the toxicity of the entire organism. The intestinal fungi, mucous membranes, vaginal fungi for women are always a toxic problem. If you detoxify them, they go away by themselves. If you build up good intestinal flora, which would be a different topic, then they always go away.
When I say, I'm always interested, I want to keep my body healthy and relieve my liver if possible, I've done 3 chelat treatments. I've also noticed a lot of improvement. What would you recommend to a preventive, healthy patient? Do you do something like that once a month? Or do you just stick to it a little bit? Because the toxins come from everywhere. I can't just say, now the thing is done, but I'm permanently shot again.
The actual answer lies in the diet. If you eat properly, and for a long time, the intestinal bacteria, the good ones, would build up. And they act like a leaflet. They pull the toxins out before they even get into the body. They pull them up and go out with the stool. That would be the long-term therapy. What we say is, no cow's milk products, because they are unfortunately very heavily loaded today, and as little as possible animal protein products. That's our credo, how to proceed dietetically.
When people say, I have to deal with this more, I've never heard of it, or I'd like to give my doctor a tip, or maybe you wish to network skills that really have a certain spectrum, are there seminars on a certain level that you say, okay, we have a good overview? Are there any possibilities?
Yes. I'm still a doctor and have a very lively practice, but my main activity is teaching. We do a lot of seminars. I'm also at a lot of conferences. And we're also doing seminars for laypeople, so for patients. I do a lot of seminars in English and German for doctors and practitioners of healing and medical professionals. You can look at www.biomed-in.com. Biomed-int.com, and there are our seminars. But there are also books. I've written several books. You just have to Google doctoral books. And one of them is Chronically Ill. Heal Yourself. It's all in there. It's simple.
Also with the liver cure?
The liver cure is described 1-to-1.
Great. Perfect. Thank you for being here again, dear Thomas.
My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to discussing more topics with you in the future. We can look forward to a few things. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Dear viewers, the topic of detoxification is always a perennial favorite. Of course, you are also burdened by all sides. It's always wonderful to have doctors who give you opportunities to get back to health quickly. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.